Good morning, everyone. It's October 13th, 2019. I'm Eric. I'm here at Deagle.com. Many of you have heard me do these Deagle reports before, but it's worth going over again because a lot of people want to know when these things are going to happen. And I believe that we've gotten an answer in the form of the Deagle 2025 forecast. As you can see, it lists, there are 183 countries listed below. And we're going to focus on our own country here, the United States. Now, you might see here that it says 999,553,100. And you can interpret that one of two ways. Either the population will be reduced to that number or by that number, meaning instead of there being 99,553,100, it could simply just mean that 100 million people, roughly, have left the country or died. Or you can look at it as the population is to be reduced to that 100 million. I'm not sure which they mean, but they give a rather lengthy explanation for their forecast here. Now, let me point out that they say the majority of the economic and demographic data used in making this forecast is widely available by institutions such as CIA, IMF, UN, U.S. government, and so forth. So they are connected to the government. But the two more troubling paragraphs here is this paragraph and this paragraph. They say despite the numeric data quantity, there is a quality model which has not a direct translation into numeric data. For example, the 2014 strain of Ebola has a death rate of 50 to 60%. But try to imagine what would happen if there is a pandemic of Ebola with hundreds of thousands or millions infected. Now, you know me. Yes, Ebola is a threat, especially when governments have weaponized it and have proven through the millennia that they are bloodthirsty institutions and do pretty bad things to kill other people of other nations and their own citizens. So I'm saying here, is it possible that these individuals know that there's going to be an Ebola pandemic? But let me try to imagine what would happen if there is a pandemic of Ebola with hundreds of thousands or millions infected with the virus. So far, the few cases of Ebola infected people have enjoyed intensive health care with antiviral and breathing assistance, but above all, with abundant human support by physicians and nurses. A pandemic scenario of that kind of healthcare won't be available for the overwhelming number of infected, leading to a dramatic increase of the death rate. So it looks like they kind of know what's happening. So I tell you that we already have a timeline for when these things are going to happen. Now, it is late 2019 now. So that gives us a little over 5 years. And by the way, that's between now and 5 years. It's not in 5 years it's going to happen. It's going to slowly happen over the course of the next 5 years and few months. They say the key element to understand the process that the U.S. will enter in the upcoming decade is migration. They go on to say that we've enjoyed the brain drain and the expansion of our demographics. But they expect the collapse of the Western financial system, and they say that it will wipe out the standard of living for us in the United States. And Ponzi schemes like the stock exchange and pension funds will end. They go on to say that the population will be hit so badly by a full array of bubbles and Ponzi schemes that the migration scheme engine will start to work in reverse. So they expect a major pandemic and the migration system in the United States to begin working in reverse as our economy collapses. And when these things start to happen, we can expect more people to get locked up, more laws to be created, and more criminals made as a result. Remember, people aren't criminal usually on their own, unless, of course, they're committing an act of rape or assault or child molestation, murder, robbery. But if a person is consuming things that the government deems illegal, that's really not criminal. There has to be a victim involved in criminality. And if there's not, then it really can't be seen as criminal. I mean, not by a rational person. But this article here, it's from ammo.com, and let me quote this Greek philosopher whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce because I'll butcher it. But he says that where you find laws most numerous, there you will find also the greatest injustice. And if you look at our country, we have a library full of laws. There are no two ways about it. The United States of America and its 50 states, state governments love putting people in prison. And it can happen to anyone. And it's not just so-called criminals. I mean, look at the farmer who collected rainwater over there in Oregon, and he got put in county jail for, 30 days or something like that. The state literally claims ownership over the rain that's coming down. And their justification for this is, well, if you collect the rainwater, there won't be water for people downriver or downstream, but that's bullshit. All right, so the U.S. has both the highest number of prisoners and the highest per capita incarceration rate in the modern world at 655 adults per 100,000. It's worth noting that China's incarceration statistics are dubious, and they execute far more people than the United States. And by the way, the United States really does execute a lot of people, just not directly. Well, take for example a little guy that gets put in prison for some weed and he's murdered. They pretty much sent that guy to his death. Indeed, the so-called People's Republic executes more people annually than the rest of the world combined. Still, that's more than 2.2 million Americans in state and federal prisons as well as county jails. And as our country degrades, more and more people will be put in these prison camps, these borderline concentration camps, really. They go on to say that for firearm owners in particular, the growth in this prison industrial complex is troubling because felons are forbidden from owning firearms and any ammo under the 1968 Gun Control Act. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if you have a choice between obedience and survival, what's the most logical thing to choose? A teenage cancer patient said it best. He said that I would rather be illegally alive than legally dead. And you can apply that same logic to the 1968 Gun Control Act. I'm not telling you to break the law. I'm just saying that maybe you should not worry so much about being forbidden from owning firearms under an enemy government. And it's very clear that the government is the enemy. After all, they have repeatedly put out lists of citizens they consider to be enemies of the state or enemies, period. They go on to say, as the number of laws has grown and the cultural shift for police has gone from a focus on keeping the peace to enforcing the law, more and more Americans are being stripped of their Second Amendment rights, not to mention other civil liberties like voting, as if voting has ever done any good. 6.1 million Americans cannot vote because of their criminal records. And again, many of these people, they did nothing but possess a plant or other substance that our enemy government deems illegal. For American society as a whole, the prison industrial complex has created a perverse incentive structure. Bad laws drive out respect for good laws because there are just so many laws. And don't get me wrong, there are good laws like the universally preferred behaviors. Thou shalt not murder, rape, so on and so forth, right? Anything other than that is unnecessary. I mean, if you're talking about corporations, obviously there has to be something put in place. And I'm not saying the government needs to do this either. The people can do it to protect the environment from things like pollution. I mean, the government hasn't done a great job of doing that. After all, look at all of the pollution that Monsanto and others does. I mean, their pollution is incredible, incredible amounts of pollution. Let's not forget the likes of, 3M or Dow Chemical Companies and so on and so forth. Of course, the corporations have to have oversight by the people, not the government. Let me get down here. Overcriminalization equals less civil liberties. And again, as our country collapses into third world status, and if you don't believe that this is going on, all you need to do is look at most of the major cities, if not all of them. As many of you know, I had a job, I still do, but we're taking some time off from doing that work because it's rather disgusting. I don't think I'm going to go back to doing it personally, but people live in squalor in this country. They live with cockroaches, rats. There's diseases that are spreading, funguses, you name it. So make no mistake about it, we are collapsing into a third world nation. And as this happens, a lot of the people that have risked their asses, foolishly might I add, to get here, are going to risk their asses yet again to get the fuck out. One of the fundamental principles underpinning our constitutional republic is that the citizenry should not accept "trust me" as an answer from the federal government. But look what happens. They do. And that's the sheeple among us, the sheep. Yet, in one of our most Orwellian of federal departments, the Department of Homeland Security, a surveillance state is growing as our private information trusted to the government is used against us. And of course, I've explained to you how data is collected on you by a handful of corporations, maybe two handfuls, and fed into a quantum computer that puts you on some kind of list. And as you well know, the surveillance state is made possible by fusion centers, police intelligence agencies that allow different police agencies to share intelligence with one another. It is, in effect, the intelligence gathering method of the burgeoning police state. And it is. So, again, I refer you to this timeline. This is a 2025 forecast. 5 years goes by pretty fucking quick. I mean, me and my wife have been together 10 years, and that time went by just like that. Just like that. And 5 years is going to go by just like that. And as we see our country degrade into third world status, which it is, we're going to see more and more violent behavior from our government and the people alike. So we do have a timeline. Between now and 2025, the population of the United States will either be 225 million, something like that, or 99, or just under 100 million. The GDP drops dramatically. Military expenditures also drop dramatically, and everything drops dramatically here in the United States. So we have a timeline. If you don't have the things you're going to need between now and then, I really do advise you, whether you're a felon or not a felon, to get all of the things that you're going to need, because rule of law is really not going to matter at that point. It's going to be survive or don't survive, period. There may be some remnants of these agencies left, but I don't think they're going to have enough people to enforce all of the laws that are in the books currently. And according to Dave Hodges, we have many UN troops beginning to expose themselves here in the United States, and that may have something to do with what's going to happen between now and 2025. We have a timeline. But what's it going to be? Is it going to be a pandemic? Is it going to be a civil war? Is it going to be a combination of many different things? I'm thinking that's probably the most likely case, that it will be a combination of natural disasters like floods, fighting amongst the population over left-right politics, and other things like diseases and fungus-related illnesses. So, if you're not ready, you should. You should get ready. Now, you don't only want firearms, because ammo does run out. I mean, you're going to be able to scrounge up ammo, true enough, but you should have a crossbow or a compound bow, some kind of weapon that shoots projectiles without gunpowder. You should have a box of life straws. Don't just get one life straw, get a whole bunch of them like I have. There are elements that you can get to purify your water, such as black mica. You want to have multiple ways of purifying water. And high-calorie, nutrient-dense foods like pemmican and protein bars and pasta and rice and potatoes, these things. If you have these things, if you have guns and ammo, if you have a crossbow, if you have some machetes and fixed blade knives, you'll probably make out okay. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, because let's face it, it's not going to be easy to survive, but you stand a better chance than people who don't have these things. Anyway, I thought I'd remind everyone of this, because people are always wondering when. I think we got the answer of when. It's clearly between 2017 and 2025. I say 2017 because that's when this report was put out. So, and the population, some of the numbers changed since then. So, yeah, I mean, we have our timeline. And it's not only our country that's going to be hit hard. It's numerous countries, and a lot of which are our so-called allies. Anyway, I hope everyone has a great Sunday. If I see something else to talk about, I will. I haven't been on simply because I'm not going to cover the dumbass Democrats and their impeachment bullshit. If they actually wanted to prove collusion, they would have looked at Israel and not Russia. This is nothing but a bread and circus for people to pay attention to while they quietly fuck us from behind. Anyway, hope everyone has a great day, and remember, kill the state and live free.